this tutorial, we'll quickly build a AI agent that answers like all of the questions, which are kind of FAQ based questions from a specific manual. This is the manual that I have, which is I think iPhone 13 manual. So once you upload this manual, basically the agent will be able to answer all of the questions related. So you can implement this use case for any project. Let's say if you have got real estate, question and answers about the properties, you can pretty much create a chatbot and power it up using the knowledge based tool. Okay, so I'll first show the demo to you. So hi, can you explain me what's the, let's say if I want to copy specific question, let's say I want to know about this part, Apple 1-year warranty. Okay, so I'll just copy paste this in iPhone 13. So what the agent will do is try to query the iPhone 13 agent guide, which is actually the guide that we have, pulled from the manual. And then it will try to answer all the questions using AI over here. So it's trying to return all the questions over it. So Apple 1-year warranty summary, coverage, Apple warranty includes the hardware protect. So everything is coming out from the same manual, whatever, in just much more formatted way. So that's how we'll be able to build this out. So let's get straight into the build. Let's get straight into the building. So what I'll do is I'll log into my N8N workflow and I'll just create a new folder, which is with this name. So I already have all the documentation in my community. You can join the community. I've pasted the link in the description. So all the tutorials, every single prompt that I will use is available in the community. So join that community. I highly recommend. And then we create a tutorial. So we first create a folder. In that folder specifically, okay, let's double click on the folder we create. So this is the first agent that we'll create. Okay, this is the main agent, and then this is the tool that we'll be using, which is to query all the details. So the thing is, we're going to use something called as Pinecone. Now, Pinecone is vector store. Now, if you don't know vector stores are specifically a way to organize all the information in form of vectors. These are like essentially small subsets of data that you can store somewhere and then query them out. So this is what Pinecone is. It's a third-party database tool. Now, what we'll do is basically feed all the data, that is the complete manual that I have over here in the Pinecone, and Pinecone node will be able to query them out as and when required, which is based on the relevancy. So let's first do one thing, which is we'll be creating this Pinecone agent, which is storing all the data in the Pinecone, and then we'll basically be using that data to query from Pinecone. So let's get straight into building this first Pinecone agent. So what we need to do is just follow the step, which is so main FAQ AI agent. This is the FAQ AI agent that will basically set up the Pinecone database. So I'll just go back. Okay, I'll add this workflow name, and this is going to get executed manually. So I'll just quickly go trigger as manual. Okay, the second node that I want to fetch is the details from my Google Drive. So I already have this manual on my Google Drive. So this manual basically has got everything related to iPhone 13. You can pretty much use any other manual and can query the information from any other data source as well. So I will do is I'll just select the Google Drive. Okay, and I want to basically get or download the file, right? This is the download node. So we'll use the same credential. If you don't have credential, I'll quickly show you how to do that. So create a new credential. Okay, now what you need to do is go to Open Docs. Okay, copy this redirect URL because we will be needing this, and then you basically need the Google Cloud account. I already have this YouTube tutorial on how to create this credential, so you can follow that credential tutorial, but let's say I'll quickly show you how to do that right away. So you go to console. So if you don't have the Google Cloud account, like highly sign up for it. We'll be using a lot of that in the tutorials. And then what you need to do is go to the project. So if you don't have a project, you can create a new project from here. Okay, I already happen to have this Google N8N project. And then you go to API services, enabled API and services. Okay, and then what you need to do is basically go to credentials. Okay, so I'll be creating a new credential, create credentials, and then API key. Okay, sorry, this is not the one. Go to OAuth client ID. Okay, this one. And then what you do is basically it's loading. You select the type as web application, add it as N8N app. Let's say Google, something that you want. Pass the authorized redirect URI as the URI that you copied. So you just copy that redirect URI and then create this credentials. Okay, I'll just create this credential. So this is how you'll create a credential. You get the client ID as well as client secret key. Copy this, go back to N8N, paste the client ID over here, and then copy the secret key as well, paste the secret key over here, click on save. We'll try to give you this sign in with Google option. Okay, you try to go and click on this and then select the account that you want to use. So I'll be using this one. Okay, so continue, and then you give all the permissions which the agent want, specifically on retrieving all the details from Google Drive. So this is what I'll get. Select all, continue, and that's it. Okay, that's done. If this turns green, that means your account was successful. I'll close this out, and then what I'll do is basically go back to the node, double click on that. So I'll select the resource as file, I'll select the operation as download, and then from the file, basically I'll just check the ones that I have the manual, right? So I'll use this manual. This is the manual that I have, which is iOS manual PDF. So I'll simply search iOS, should pop up over here. So this is what I will select, and that's it, right? If you execute the steps, it will pull all the information, and then you will get this as a binary file. So this is how, so if you try to download this, this is how you'll get this information downloaded. So this node is sorted. Now what you need to do is basically feed this up to Pinecone vector store. This is another node that the Pinecone offers. So let's go to this Pinecone vector store. And what you need to do is basically add the documents to the vector store. So click on add documents to vector store. This time you need to create a new credential for Pinecone. So you go and create a new credential. This time it needs an API key. Again, simple. You go to open docs. Again, N8N has got like incredibly good with storing all the information, relevant docs, with a specific node. So you get to check the information, and whatever is required, just refer this doc. So you need Pinecone vector store. You just need the Pinecone documentation. Okay. So you can refer the documentation, and you need to have a Pinecone account. So you go to the Pinecone, okay, maybe sign up. It hardly takes like 2 minutes. Quick sign up process, quite good, vector store. Now I'll basically use my account to sign up, which is my agency account. This is the Growth Rise agency I have. Okay, this is done. And now what I have is basically 2 indexes. Let's completely ignore this 2 index. I'll create a new index for my agent. So what I'll do is, let's say FAQ, index. Okay, so select the embedding module that you want. So embedding module is the one that will use, let's say, text embedding small. This is the one from OpenAI. I'll come back to this point again afterwards if it is confusing. And then that's pretty much it. What we need to do is create the index. Okay, make sure the dimension is 512, because we do get a lot of issues with the dimensions. So now this is done. What I'll do is basically index is done. I'll create an API key for this. So go to API keys, create new API key, add API key name over here, N8N API key. Okay, it should all be alphanumeric. So N8N API key. Okay, create an API key, copy the API key, go to the N8N, paste the API key, click on save. Once this is done, it should get connected, which means this should turn green again. Same thing. Okay, now you're already connected to the Pinecone with the credentials. You need to insert the document, and from the index, remember we created a new index just now, which was this FAQ index. Make sure to add the batching size as, so whatever. So if the document is huge, we can pretty much go with 500, 600. This is how we'll be able to chunk the data. So this is what it does. Number of documents to embed in single batch. So this, just keep it as it is. One more thing that you need to add, because if you don't add this, you'll get an issue. So go to the Pinecone namespace. What happens is basically whenever you're trying to upload a doc, it gets uploaded to the Pinecone in a specific namespace. Now, if you see in my Pinecone account, if you go to the database, I have this index getting created. I don't have any namespace. So what I'll try to do is basically, namespace is a way to arrange all your data. So what I'll do is create a namespace called FAQ namespace. Okay, simple. And then I also do one more thing, which is add an embedding. Now this way I'll use the OpenAI embedding. Okay, the same thing that I was using when I was creating the Pinecone index. Make sure to use your OpenAI account. If you don't have credential, create a new credentials. Again, simple. You go to the docs. Okay, in the docs, you need to have OpenAI accounts. If you go to the platform.openai, okay, I'm logged into my agency account. If you go to the settings, you'll have the API keys. Okay, this is how the API keys, just create a new API key, name it up, and whatever API key that gets created, just paste it out over here. So that's how you'll get your API. I already happen to have one API key, so I'll select that, and then I'll keep the text embedding as small, because that is what I use. And the dimension that you need to do is select the 512, because it should be the same dimension as the Pinecone. So if you go, this is the dimension, because otherwise again it would result into few issues. That's it. Then what I'll do is just tidy up the workflow a bit. This is my embedding. This is my, all the Pinecone vector storage node. And then what I need to do is basically do a default data loader. So what I'll do is whatever data that we are trying to, push is basically going to also get loaded from the document. So you will use this simple default data loader, select the type as binary because it's a file. Keep the node exactly the options, load all input data, that is fine. Automatically detect type as well. Text splitting should be recursive, so go to custom, okay, and then add a text splitter, which is going to be a recursive character text splitter. Okay, so chunk size, it's fine, like 1,000 is fine as well. Keep it as it is. We don't need to do anything on the chunk overlap as well. That is fine. So that is how I'll set up the complete flow on how to feed your Pinecone vector with the specific manual that we have in the Google Drive. Okay, I'll click on save. And once I run this workflow, what will happen is we'll try to basically pull the details from the Google Drive. It would put everything into Pinecone vector store. Okay. And then everything once gets sorted, it will turn green. So this execution would be done. So this is what we got executed. Now, if you go to the Pinecone, okay, if you take a refresh, this is what will be created. You see the namespace. This is FAQ namespace, which has got records 12. This is how everything would be created if the run is successful. Okay. Now we'll basically go and create this main agent node, which is used to query the data. So let's do that. Now it's time to create the main agent node, which is the FAQ AI agent node. So last time we created like the Pinecone agent, the Pinecone agent wherein it stores everything to the Pinecone. Now we'll create this new agent. So now I'll just copy this name, go to the workflow, create new workflow. Okay. I'll just paste the name over here. So by the way, everything is in the docs. If you join the community, you'll have every single thing step by step. So you can copy paste the prompts and get it done yourself as well. The first node that we are going to create is the chat node. So when the chat text message receives, basically we'll try to prompt the AI agent. So what you need to do is add the first step as the chat trigger. Okay, this is what the trigger is. And then test the chat, everything should work. Okay, if you do a quick check, let's do a hi, it should pop up and this should get executed. Now the second thing that we need to do is connect it to the AI agent node. So if you go to AI agent, okay, simple, whatever gets inputted is coming from the chat node. So let us just quickly get connected to the chat node itself. Nothing more selections over here. And then what you need to do is select the chat model. In the workflow, I've selected the OpenAI chat. So I'll do the exact same for OpenAI models as well. So I'll go and select the OpenAI model. I'll go with GPT-4o. Again, very cost effective in terms of whatever we are trying to build over here. Okay, so the GPT-4, you can again use the same credential that you created. Again, if you have any issues, you can pretty much refer to the docs. And then memory tool, I'll quick it like very simple. The context window length is going to be 5. Again, no more selections over here as well. We'll just keep the defaults. What 5 means specifically, try to remember all the last 5 conversations, and then that should be enough. So here's what it will tell you: how many past interaction the model receives the context. Let's keep it 5 over there. And then as a tool, what we need to do is basically search for Pinecone vector store. This is a tool that will query everything from the Pinecone. So you see this is the iPhone 13 guide agent, wherein it's got every single thing which will query it. So what you need to do is basically Pinecone credential that you choose last time you selected. Operation mode should be this time retrieval, because we are actually trying to query the data. And the description, you can pretty much copy paste from the prompt. So call this tool to search information specifically about the iPhone 13 guidelines. So I copy this, I paste the description over here. Okay, and I select the index, whichever we created. So it was FAQ index. Okay, keep the limit as 4. So limit is specifically the number of top results that you can bring from the vector store. So it's like similar research that can give you more context to the AI. If you want to include metadata, that's fine. Pre-ranking results is completely optional. And then we need to select the embedding model. Again, the same thing that we did last time, which was OpenAI credential. Keep the embedding model as small and make sure to add the dimension as 512. It should be the same as the Pinecone one that we have. Okay, that's it. And then one more thing that we need to do is basically add the system prompt for this AI agent so that everything works out together. So this is the system prompt. Now, if you check the system prompt, you are an iPhone agent, a helpful, precise guide specializing in all the Apple hardware and everything. These are the instructions that we have. This is the actions. These are the examples of the FAQs, how to bridge those answers together. And then everything that you have to is to use the Pinecone vector store to contain all the information related to iPhone 13. So this is the example input, this is the example output. So what I'll do is basically copy and paste it as the system prompt. So whatever is coming out of the chat node is the user prompt. Okay, I'll go and check it out on the system prompt. So I'll just paste it over here. Nothing more than this. I mean, again, if you try to reprompt it up, that's fine. It would give you, much more efficient. For just an example, it's fine. Then I'll just execute the steps. Okay, I'll try to see whatever comes up. So we gave hi and hello, can I assist you with iPhone 13 or iOS 13 today is what we got. So everything is now set. I'll just click on save. I think we're done with most. Okay, there's also one more thing that we need to do before we actually run this agent. What we need to do is we need to double click on this Pinecone agent, okay? And we need to add the namespace. So basically namespace, whatever we sorted the data endpoint, which is, push everything to Pinecone, we added a namespace. So that namespace will use to query the data as well. So you can copy that namespace, paste the namespace over here, and pretty much that's it. So if you click on save, this is how everything should work now. Now let's try to, test it out. So hi, let's go back to our Google Drive, because I have the manual over there. So I'll click and just open this up in preview mode. Okay, I will try to find few things wherein I can just do a quick check. So let's do this thing. It's quite good. Okay, so for frequency 900, okay, let's try to do this. Hi, what's what is that? A maximum power. Okay, maximum power for frequency. This is the GSM 900 in iOS 13, or let's say, or whatever it is, right? iPhone 13. Okay. Now what we'll do is specifically search for Pinecone and try to return all the answers that we have. So it's trying to pull everything. So you see maximum power for GSM and the iPhone is less than 35 decibels. So if you check, this is what the row says, and it's quite true. Okay, you can test out with all the other questions and answers. Everything will be pulled out from this sheet, and which is already linked to Pinecone. Okay, so that's how the tutorial was. Hope you like this tutorial. Now if you want like more tutorials about this, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to share more AI agents coming up. So, and also everything is in the community section. You can pretty much join the community section and browse the tutorials yourself and try to build agents. That's it on the video. Thank you.